and then you'll have a choice and you'll say, hey, do I want to pay the banks 2.5% to 4% every time I swipe my credit card, or do I want a currency that's frictionless, open, transparent, global, and not tied to any political force?
Hey everybody, Matty here with Altcoin Buzz. Happy Tuesday. We are contrasting Bitcoin mega bull Tim Draper against Bitcoin downer Warren Buffett. Tim is still calling for a $250,000 Bitcoin by 2022 or 23. Warren Buffett still maintains that the value of Bitcoin and by extension cryptocurrency really is zero because it's a non-productive asset that can't really do anything. Let's start out with this video courtesy of @CryptoBull.
Well, I'm still holding to my prediction. I think Bitcoin in 2022 or at the beginning of 2023 will hit 250,000. And that is a big move from where it is here. And I think that the reason there is that Bitcoin will be the currency of choice. I mean, right now you have this choice, and Bitcoin's not as easy to move around, but eventually it will be. And then you'll have a choice and you'll say, hey, do I want to pay the banks 2.5% to 4% every time I swipe my credit card, or do I want a currency that's frictionless, open, transparent, global, and not tied to any political force? I mean, this is, at some point, people are going to make that switch, and Bitcoin is going to be the big winner.
Tim, 250,000 is 25x plus from where it is right now. So if you really think it's going to be there in 2 to 3 years, what percentage of your net worth do you have in it today?
I never tell anybody that kind of thing, but a lot of it.
I mean, but if you're telling viewers 250,000, if you're going to put that number out there, you got to at least give me a ballpark. I mean, is it half? Is it a third?
It's a lot. It is a lot. And
well,
I'm just a believer, and I look and I say, hey, this is just better. Long term, people move to things that are better. What merchant is going to want to pay their 2.5% to 4% to the banks and the credit card companies? I mean, they're not going to want to do that forever. At some point, they're going to say, hey, this Bitcoin, why don't we accept Bitcoin because, hey, we can now use OpenNode and the transaction happens instantly, and it's faster than a Visa network, and we don't have to pay these guys 2.5% to 4%.
Tim, of course, making some great points there. There is a shift that is coming at one point or another. Merchants are not going to want to keep giving away 2, 3, 4% of transactions to the credit card companies and thus the banks. And on the consumer side of things, there is an increasing distrust of the institutions. They're going to want to move toward freedom, financial freedom, currency freedom in the form of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I would argue that that's happening really across the board beyond just the currencies that we use, but it's happening politically. It's happening in a lot of different ways. It's manifesting. And maybe that's the content of another video. We'll have to touch on that another time, but it is nonetheless happening. I think we can all see it unfolding before our eyes. TheDailyHodl.com covers this. Tim Draper says paradigm shift will bring Bitcoin to $250,000, reveals move to crypto as Dow plunges 1,000 points. That in response to other things, certainly coronavirus and other details unfortunately moved the Dow to the downside recently. It's also interesting that Tim Draper does not seem to want to reveal what percentage of his net worth is tied up in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin investments. However, it seems like it's a lot. It seems like he keeps suggesting it's a sizable chunk. By contrast, we have CNBC tweeting the following. Warren Buffett saying, quote, I don't own any cryptocurrency and I never will. Let's play the following video.
Lucas writes in, he said, did Justin Sun change your mind on cryptocurrencies? For anybody who doesn't know, Justin Sun bought the dinner or the lunch that you just had from the last Glide Foundation fundraiser. He is actively involved in Bitcoin. After that meeting, his PR people put out some notes saying that, you know, you kind of listened to cryptocurrency and maybe you're a little more in tune with the idea of Bitcoin now.
Well, I would say this. When Justin and 4 friends came, they behaved perfectly, and we had a good 3.5-hour dinner, and the whole thing was a very friendly exchange of ideas. But cryptocurrencies basically have no value, and they don't produce anything. So you can look at your little ledger item for the next 20 years, and it says you've got X of this cryptocurrency or that. It doesn't reproduce. It doesn't deliver. It can't mail you a check. It can't do anything. And what you hope is that somebody else comes along and pays you more money for it later on. But then that person's got the problem. But in terms of value, zero.
So it sounds like he did not change your position.
No, but I didn't change his either. And I had a very pleasant dinner, and those people they behaved more than well. And they gave Justin gave $4.6 million to Glide, and that will buy a lot of meals and provide a lot of beds for people in San Francisco. So I thank him.
He gave you some Bitcoin. What's it feel like to be a Bitcoiner?
I don't have any Bitcoin.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
No.
You don't own Bitcoin?
No, I do not own one. I don't own any cryptocurrency. I never will. And, in the end, I may start a Warren currency. Maybe I can create one, and I'll say there's only going to be 21 million of them, and you can have a little ledger sheet from me and everything that says you have it. And you can have it after I die, but you can't do anything with it except sell it to somebody else. And the interesting thing, of course, is that Bitcoin's been out there a long time, and people talked about how it would be used in various kinds of exchange, but none of our companies are doing business in Bitcoin or anything. Bitcoin has been used, I think, to move around a fair amount of money illegally. So the people
or maybe in countries where you have
the logical move from the introduction of Bitcoin is to go short suitcases, because the money that was taken in suitcases from one country to another, suitcases will probably fall off in demand. I mean, so you can look at that as the economic contribution of Bitcoin to the society.
All right, a lot was said in that CNBC piece. Warren Buffett, first and foremost, said he's very proud of the performance of the banks that he owns. Let's take a look at this for a second on news.bitcoin.com before coming back to the rest of the interview. Wells Fargo fined $3 billion for 15 years of illegal practices which affected millions of customers. And yet, Warren Buffett is very proud of the work the banks are doing out there. Fine works, Wells Fargo. It's one of the biggest and largest financial service companies, and they've agreed to pay $3 billion to solve the U.S. government's investigations into fraudulent sales practices spanning over 15 years. The Wells Fargo fraud case involved the company forging customer signatures, moving money from millions of customer accounts to unauthorized accounts, and misusing customers' sensitive personal information. And yet Wells Fargo still exists. You probably haven't heard about this story, or maybe you have, but this is just an absolute disgrace that should be shouted from the rooftops. The Department of Justice stated the following, quote, Wells Fargo admitted that it collected millions of dollars in fees and interest to which the company was not entitled, harmed the credit ratings of certain customers, and unlawfully misused customers' sensitive personal information, including customers' means of identification. Absolutely despicable. But Warren Buffett is proud of the performance of the banks that he owns. And here's how much Warren Buffett has made off of Wells Fargo. This according to Fool.com, the Motley Fool, that is. So Warren Buffett's track record, blah, blah, blah. Of course, he's been very successful in the past and continues to be successful. Look, he's an absolute icon in the traditional investment space. I will never take that away from him. My beef is just that he tries to overextend himself and have an opinion in matters that he's really not knowledgeable about, i.e., Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain. But through Berkshire Hathaway, one of Warren Buffett's largest holdings is Wells Fargo. They have 378 million shares owned. That was at the end of last quarter, worth about $19.8 billion at recent prices. So you're talking about a price, or a valuation rather, an asset wealth that is 6 times greater than that fine that we just discussed of $3 billion, over 6 times greater. Do you think Warren Buffett is going to come out and slam Wells Fargo because of the malpractices that were conducted over 15 years? Hardly. Nearly $20 billion he's invested to that tune in this crooked bank. Importantly, in the CNBC interview, Warren Buffett also said that he was not given any Bitcoin by Justin Sun, that really they just sat down for what seems to be several hours and had a very amicable dinner. It looks like some of the proceeds that they discussed or that they pulled together is going to be moving towards some charitable foundations in the San Francisco area. I believe that's what he said, but if not, to some kind of a charitable outlet, which is very commendable. Justin Sun replying here, dinner with Warren Buffett was not only to help the homeless of San Francisco, but to discuss differences of opinions in investment and life experiences. In terms of charity impact, the dinner was very successful, and Mr. Buffett is such a great teacher of life. I learned so much. However, Justin also saying this only 5 hours ago, the cryptos Bitcoin and TRX Tron Mr. Buffett owns remain intact with blockchain proof, which is the beauty of blockchain. I won't interpret Mr. Buffett as a crypto investor, which he's not. He only has the Bitcoin Tron I gifted him in his Samsung Galaxy Fold, which is a 20% return thus far. So that's interesting. Maybe Warren Buffett didn't understand what was happening when he was gifted that Samsung Galaxy or what was contained on it, but Warren came out and flat out denied the ownership of any cryptocurrency. Again, quote, "I don't own any cryptocurrency. I never will." But you do, Mr. Buffett, and that was just confirmed by Justin Sun, who didn't, quite throw you under the bus, but he certainly invalidated what you said in your interview with CNBC. At the end of the day, I suppose we're going to have to align with one individual or another. Certainly there is gray area and we can find some nuance and perhaps find ourselves in between. I've said quite clearly and quite publicly before that I find myself certainly following the predictions of Mr. Tim Draper, who said by 2022-23 you're looking at about a $250,000 Bitcoin. That's a much more modest and gradual increase between now and then versus what the people of the world like John McAfee have said. And I can get behind him for a lot of different reasons that we'll have to get into another time. But let us know in the comments below who you agree with. Mr. Tim Draper, who's a little bit more optimistic, a little bit, I think is an understatement, about the Bitcoin and crypto space, or Mr. Warren Buffett, who seemed to deny his very ownership of Bitcoin and Tron. There are some sticky issues that are outstanding, however. Tim Draper, for example, keeps defending Theranos, this courtesy of Axios.com. You may not have heard about Theranos, but they've become a companion non grata in Silicon Valley, a very troubled reminder that not even multi-billion-dollar valuations can save startups from their own shortcuts. Venture capitalist Tim Draper, an old friend of family, Theranos founder and CEO Elizabeth Holmes, led an early $1 million investment into the company. Theranos is kind of outside of the realm of cryptocurrency, so we're not going to really spend much time on it at all, but it is the subject of an ongoing scandal. If you'd like to read more about that, panmcmillan.com has got you covered. Just a reminder that Tim Draper doesn't always get things 100% right either. We want to kind of keep things honest, and so we figured we'd include this for you briefly in the discussion today, and we're going to also link to this in the description below. You can also read about Tim Draper's involvement in basically the one altcoin that he does like to talk about, this on somagnews.com. Tim Draper announced the last altcoin he's invested in, and it is ANT. That about wraps it up for today, everybody. Do be sure you're following us on all the regular social media channels and keep checking back into altcoinbuzz.io for all the latest. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell to receive notifications if you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget about our giveaway. We're giving away another CryptoTag Zeus starter kit this Saturday. To be eligible for that prize, you got to be subscribed to Altcoin Buzz on YouTube. You've got to like videos and you've got to comment on videos. Best of luck if you choose to enter that giveaway. Best of luck if you choose to invest on this Tuesday. But have a great one, everybody. As always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.